You can be completely in the right and still end up being the one who has to apologize. And it happens because the second you react to being disrespected or mistreated, your reaction becomes the whole story. Nobody's talking about how the other person crossed the line anymore. They're talking about how you responded to it. Here's how the setup works. Whoever provoked you did it in a way that was small and deniable. A partner, a coworker, a family member, whoever it is, they gave you a comment with a little bit of bite to it, a look, a tone, something that they can easily wave off and tell you that you're reading too much into. But your response was the visible part. You got loud, or you got emotional, or you finally said something back. So now there's a clear record of your reaction and no record at all of the boundary they crossed to get that reaction. And you're the one left holding the evidence, except the evidence is against you. Go ahead and subscribe because I'm about to break down exactly why this tactic works so well. The first reason it works is that human attention naturally goes to the loudest thing in the room. A quiet jab doesn't register to anybody who wasn't paying close attention, but a strong reaction does. So when other people walk in on the middle of a situation, the first thing they notice is you responding, not the string of digs and disrespect that got you there. Their brain treats whatever they walked in on as the beginning, and now in their mind, you started it. And that ties into the second reason, which is that nobody is measuring your reaction against what was actually done to you. They're measuring it against nothing because they never saw the part that set you off. So, a completely proportional response to being disrespected looks like an overreaction because everybody's missing the context that would make it make sense. You come off unhinged for reacting to something they can't see. The third reason is one that people really underestimate, and it's that staying calm reads as being innocent. The person who provoked you gets to sit there, composed, while you're the one worked up, and to everybody watching, the calm person looks like the reasonable one. We're wired to assume the person who's more emotional is the person who's more wrong. So somebody can push you all the way to the edge, and the moment you go over it, they get to lean back and look completely rational by comparison. They won everyone over without ever having to prove they were right. They just had to be the one who stayed cool. And a lot of people who do this know that. This isn't always some innocent misunderstanding. Some people have figured out that if they can get you to lose your composure, they never have to defend what they did in the first place. Because now the conversation isn't, why did you keep provoking her? The conversation is, why is she yelling? That's a bait and switch, and it's one of the most effective ones there is because it flips the entire situation while making you look like the problem. And once the conversation becomes about your reaction, they don't have to explain their behavior anymore. The whole burden shifts on to you. Now you're the one defending your tone while they've completely stopped defending what they did. That's why moving the focus onto your reaction is so powerful, because whoever gets to decide what the conversation is about is usually the one who controls how the whole thing gets remembered. There's also the reputation piece. If people already have a story about you, that you're intense, dramatic, difficult, then they're not really watching to see what happens. They're watching for the moment that confirms what they already decided. So your reaction doesn't create that narrative. It closes the case on one that was already open. And that's why the same exact reaction from two different people gets read two completely different ways. If you've been cast as the emotional one, everything you do is filed under emotional. And this part is where it gets to you because once you see how this works, you start doing their job for them. Somebody crosses a line and you feel the anger building, but you swallow it instead, or something gets said that you have every right to check. And you let it slide even though you know you shouldn't have. And eventually you stop trusting your own instincts because every single time you react, you're told the reaction was the problem. So you start second guessing whether you even have the right to be upset at all. You go quiet because you already know how it's going to get spun if you say anything. And that's the actual goal of the whole thing. The argument was never the goal, but your silence was. And institutions make it worse because families, workplaces, and schools almost always reward the person who looks calmer, even when that person started the whole thing. Even your friend group does it, where the response to a blowup is, can we all just calm down? Instead of what actually started this. Think about how many times the person who reported a problem got treated as more of a problem than the thing they reported. The calm troublemaker keeps the reputation intact, and the person who reacted gets written up, pulled aside, labeled as hard to work with. So over time, you stop reporting real harm. You stop advocating for yourself, you stop solving the problem, and start defending your response to it. And the person who provoked you never had to change a single thing. Let me tell you how I learned to handle this myself. I've been observant my whole life. That's part of why I'm quiet, especially somewhere I'm not familiar with. because I'm watching. And from years of sitting back and paying attention to how people interact, I've seen this play out in front of me more times than I can count. Somebody starts an uncomfortable conversation that turns into a full blown argument, and then they want to act innocent, throwing rocks and hiding their hand. And what that taught me is that I have to play it cool, but I have to be able to pop my stuff in such an eloquent, classy way that nobody can turn around and say I was the one out of pocket. I learned to master staying calm and starving people of the exact reaction they're fishing for. Because for whatever reason, some people project status onto me that I never asked for. Like they've decided on their own that I think I'm better than everybody. And then they want to knock me down for it. And I never once put myself above anybody. That's a story they wrote in their own head. But here they come trying to antagonize me and get me to come out of my skin because it would make them feel better about where they've placed me in this hierarchy that I never agreed to be a part of. So I learned to read people down like Claire Huxtable, honey, because Miss Claire could give you that one intense look, eyes glimmering, and then go in so articulate and so eloquent that she read you down to the white meat without ever raising her voice, without calling you out your name, without taking it to the streets. I took a page out of her book because ignoring the jabs doesn't work when the person won't stop. And what's worse is they'll wait until you're in a group setting to try it. Bold enough to say something with plausible deniability, something that sounds innocent on the surface. And that's when I let them know, oh, I see exactly what you're doing. So instead of going back and forth, throwing shade, I nip it in the bud, especially when I don't have the bandwidth to play the game. I get Claire Huxtable with them, and they get checked so classy that they tuck their tail and bow out gracefully because I use my intellect to break somebody down. I don't have to make it ugly. I'm just direct and I'll hit the nail on the head so clean that the audience they wanted actually sees my side. Like, yeah, she got you there. And there have been plenty of times I've experienced a man doing it because it's an ego thing. I'd much rather exist in peace, but messy people are always going to exist. Take the weird, off putting behavior somewhere else because I will put you in your place and hurt your feelings without ever going overboard. Because you don't have to lose control to let somebody know you see exactly what they're doing. That's the whole thing they're betting against, and it's the one move they never see coming. And this applies to anybody. It doesn't matter your race, your color, or your creed. This happens to everybody in every part of life. You don't owe anybody a perfectly regulated response to being disrespected. And if the only way somebody can make their case is by pointing at how you reacted instead of the disrespect that caused the reaction in the first place, that tells you their case was never strong to begin with. The reaction was the only thing they had because the truth of what they did wouldn't have won on its own. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever been made into the villain just for reacting to somebody doing something to you or saying something to you? Share this, like it, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Take care.